loves, welcome back to the Coco Swatches YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Ofune and I'm the founder of Coco Swatches. What is Coco Swatches, you ask? Well, it is a platform, a space, a number of places where you can find swatches on deeper skin tones. Mainly mine. So we have an app, we have an Instagram page, we have a foundation blender we just launched, or I just launched, called The Basics. So if you're looking for swatches, if you're looking for something to kind of help you make your purchasing decisions and you have kind of a deeper complexion, can't really find you know, things that will help you, or people that will help you, don't go ahead and check out the Coco Swatches app, Instagram page, foundation finder, etc, etc. So without further ado, today's video is going to be about your base. We're getting into these hotter months. You're gonna start sweating a little bit. I personally love the hotter months. I like being hot. I hate being cold. But you know, with the hotter months, you know, you might perspire a little bit more oil will come through, and you will look more alive and healthy, but at the expense of your foundation a lot of times. So today's foundation routine or base routine is gonna be about how to keep your base looking fresh but matte throughout the day. So before I start rambling some more, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is prep with my Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. I find that this works really well with mattifying foundations and my skin type. It allows the texture, or the finish rather, of the foundation to stay matte but still moisturizes my skin and leaves it nice and hydrated under all of that cake. So just take my finger and blend it in. So this is my primer. Next, it's time for foundation. I'm going to go in with my good old Fenty Beauty Pro Filtr in the shade 445. I'm not sure where I saw this tip, whether it was on one of the makeup artists, the Fenty Beauty Global Makeup Artist page, or somewhere else. But essentially, they said that, like the concealer, you can kind of let the foundation sit and before you start to blend it out, and you'll get more coverage. So that's what I'm going to do. So I pump some on the back of my hand. I'm using the brush, and what I'm going to do is just literally like paint my face, but I'm not going to blend it in. So the 445 is my perfect shade for anybody that uses me as a shade reference. So I'm just like, literally I'm just painting it on, but I'm gonna wait, I don't know, 2-3 minutes before I go in with my beauty blender and blend it in. Just gonna go in and start to blend now with beauty blender. This way you can kind of see too, like after it's kind of sat for a second, you can see where you need to go in and add. Obviously I can't blend to talk, but you can go in and see where you need more coverage. And yes, I'm part of the foundation before eyebrows before foundation team, even though these eyebrows still need some work. But I feel like even though I have them already kind of on, I have like a baseline, and then after my full face is done, I can go in and fix anything that needs fixing. But I can't like see the vision before I start the foundation. Like, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. So right now I feel like I have some pretty good coverage. I have a couple of dark marks still coming through, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put some product on the back of my hand and take the beauty blender and just go over those parts, the foundation. I do tend to go a shade or a smidge darker than my chest, just because we are gonna highlight, or I'm gonna highlight and contour. So if you are looking for a foundation and you're someone that does like to highlight under the eyes and contour and all that, don't be afraid to go just a little bit darker, because if you get your exact match and then you put lighter products over your face, it's gonna end up, it's like hair sticking up. it's gonna end up looking lighter, so just to know. So next, typically I would color correct before foundation, but honestly today I just forgot, and this is not, you know, this is not a rare occurrence. Basically, I do this a lot. So when I do forget to color correct before foundation, I like to use the Makeup Forever Ultra HD concealer because this is a self-setting concealer. It doesn't need powder to set. So, and I like to color correct just this area right here around the mouth, just because I do have a little bit of a, you know, it's not a stash, but it's a little something something. And I don't really like to shave it or anything because I just don't want to have to, like, once you start, you can never stop. So I'd rather just do this than have to get it waxed or whatever. So again, it's self-setting concealer. This is the shade 51. It's kind of orangey. And I'm just going to use the Beauty Blender and blend that in. So you can see it kind of took away some of that darkness around the mouth. No 5 o'clock shadows over here. Okay, let's go already. Alright, moving on. So next we're gonna get into concealer. This is a full coverage matte kind of face routine. I'm not sure what the title of the video is going to be, but that's what I'm trying to kind of go for today because I do have combination to oily skin, and so this is definitely, as the months as we're getting into, you know, our warmer months, or if you live in a place that is warm all the time, this is a great routine for you because it's going to keep your base matte and looking flawless all day. So I'm going to go in with my Fenty Beauty Concealer in the shade 400. This is another product that you can kind of leave on the face for a little bit before you start to blend it in. So another tip I learned from, her name is King Molly Magic. I think that's her name on Instagram. I almost heard a screenshot, but she mentioned if you're having trouble or if you're noticing that you tend to crease up under the eye a lot, it might be because you are applying too much product. So what I like to do is kind of apply all the product down here and blend upwards to avoid that, so I don't look hella creasy. So I'm just putting a little bit of concealer in the places I want to highlight on my face. I do not like to contour my nose, so this is kind of like a natural contour, adding the concealer up here, but I don't really like to do that whole highlight and contour thing. I don't know, I don't like the way it makes my nose look. I don't like the way it makes my face look, so I'm just not a fan. So we're gonna let this sit again for another 2 minutes and we'll be right back. So while this is sitting, I'm going to add my contour colors because I want to set my concealer right after I blend it out, and I don't want there to be any like powders mixing with creams. So we're gonna do the contour while this is sitting. So I'm using the shade 495 in the Fenty Beauty Pro Filtr concealer, and this is like very dark and pigmented on my complexion, so I'm just putting a dot. Like, I don't need that much. And I'm taking another Fenty Beauty foundation brush. Yeah, I have 2 here, make sure I use the right one. Taking the Fenty Beauty foundation brush and just gonna blend that upwards. So I don't need, or I don't want it to be like too harsh. And I'm gonna go over it with powder anyways, but this is just kind of laying down the outline, put any excess down here to kind of contour and sculpt. Same thing on the other side. My forehead is already kind of small, so and I have like a lot of hair. Like my edges almost go into my brows. So I don't really feel the need to contour up here. I might just like lightly tap, but that's about it. So now that that product has been placed where I want it, we can go in and start to blend out the concealer. So before I start blending it out, like I said, I'm gonna set it right after I blend it out. I'm gonna be using the Fenty Beauty. I'm gonna be using the Fenty Beauty powder in the shade Cashew. You know, Fenty Beauty has like a ton of powders, and I've tried almost all of them in terms of like setting and you know, my face and my concealer and all that. And for some reason, this is just the one that looks the best under my eyes. I have a golden undertone. I don't know. It just I don't know how to explain it. This combo 400 and Cashew is just like amazing. It's that girl, is that chick, like this is my new go-to. So I'm gonna blend, so we'll just do one eye at a time. And you know, it might be, if you know, because I waited, it might feel like it's a little, wow, can't talk. Because we waited, it might feel like it's a little bit hard to move around, but you know, you just gotta put a little hump in it. Like, it'll move. It'll move and it'll blend and it'll look really good. And I mean, if you feel like you don't have enough product under your eyes, you can add more, but for me, I feel like once I add the powder, this is going to be enough. So, like I said, I want to do it right after. I'm just gonna use my beauty blender. I've tried a bunch of different things to set my under eye concealer with powder. I've tried a puff, I've tried a brush, and for me the beauty blender just works the best. I don't know why, it just does. I just feel like it deposits the right amount of powder under there. It really just presses it into the skin. It makes it look natural. So just gonna press that in over that area, and I do just let it sit for a bit. So you can see blended and set, not blended at all. Let me just actually blend this part, and then we'll move on to the other side. And I'm just like I'm turning the blender to like places that I didn't use, so I'm not mixing that powder with the product. Just an FYI. I mean, yeah, I could go get a new one. I could make a case why I should get a new one, but I'm not gonna get a new one. So yeah, I mean, there's no powder on the other side, so I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's looking fine. I've done it a million times. I don't see, as long as you're making sure you're like turning the blender so you're not mixing the powder and the liquid together, shouldn't be an issue. So now that that concealer is blended out, I'm gonna go ahead and dip in the powder again. I also like to kind of dab the excess off on the back of my hand too, just so that's not too much powder. And go in and set it up. So now you can see I'm all set. I'm going to, allergies. I'm gonna take this huge kabuki brush from Marron Nickel and just wipe off the excess powder. And this is what we're looking like at this stage in the game. Very, what's the word, airbrushed, flawless? I think so. So next we're gonna go in with bronzer. I've really been liking this Black Radiance True Complexion Contour Palette in the shade Dark to Deep. They just launched this shade this year, I believe. The one they had before was cool, but I really only used, like, you couldn't, it was like, what do they have in here? Contour, sculpt, and highlight, and I couldn't contour with the middle color or sculpt with the middle color. I only could use this shade and that shade. So this one I could use all three. This is actually really pigmented, and it's really should only be used if you're really just trying to like, really this should be sculpt. Well, never mind. Let me just not even get into terminology. But basically what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way, because I'm a really huge rambler, is that I like to use the shade because it's like a bronzer on me. And I have a video for those who are interested on the difference between bronzing and contouring. I'm probably going to do an updated video because that video is really old and the quality is bad and I know I need to redo it. But just you know, just to mention, bronzing is different than contouring, and I like this as a bronzer. So, and it's affordable. So, and I'm pretty liberal with my bronzer. This is a MAC 140S brush. And I just go over that whole area. I'm gonna use powder to kind of sculpt it out more to make it look a little bit more like, but when I first apply it, like I just apply it quite liberally. I just want to look alive and sun-kissed and refreshed and all that. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the Fenty Beauty powder in the shade Hazelnut to kind of carve out that area and to bake my nose. My nose gets the most oily, so sometimes if I know that I need my base to last, I'll just put powder right here and just leave it on there. Like honestly, by the time I'm ready to wipe it off, the oil is probably gonna have soaked it all up, but I just add extra powder here. And then you know, obviously I'm a huge fan of beauty blender or beauty sponge or whatever, you know, you want to call it, or whatever you want to use these days. You don't have to use a sponge. It's probably, there's ways you could be more precise, but I don't know, I kind of like that this just does everything and I don't need to go back and forth between things during one sitting. It's a little uneven, but that's okay because everybody's face isn't even, not perfectly symmetrical. Something I'm trying to learn, or something I've been working on, is like do my makeup for my face and not what I see like other people doing or what other people teach, because you know, you could teach one technique, but you know, everybody's face is different, everybody's skin type is different, and what works for one person might not work for you. So like, just because someone suggests something doesn't mean that, you know, it's true, and just because it doesn't work doesn't mean that it's then false. It just means that you have to play around with what works for your face, and also when doing other people. If you're a makeup artist, obviously you have to do what works best for your client. So it's something that I'm learning and something that I'm trying to implement, especially when, you know, doing the basics and doing other people's makeup in a very short amount of time. You know, you just kind of see what works for certain people and what doesn't. So that being said, this is what works for me. I don't like leaving this on too much because, again, I'm a hairy person. So I have, you know, those little, I probably should try, I think it's called dermaplaning or derma something, where they kind of like shave all that dead skin on your face. But I have those, like, I have hella hairy sideburns. I have a little bit of like fuzz on my face that is not visible to the naked eye. So I don't really like putting too much powder here because it kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, it gets stuck. And yeah. So this is the matte portion of the face. So what I'm going to do now is going to seem counterintuitive, but I am going to go ahead and set it with some setting spray, but I'm not done. So obviously there's no highlight going on here, there's no glow going on here. That's because I like to use a liquid highlighter before a powder one. And because, like I said, I don't want to mix the powder with liquid, setting it with something, you know, wet is gonna make it so that when I put some liquid product on there, it's not going to like look crazy. It's gonna blend in, and you have to make sure you do this when it's wet. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take this Hangover RX spray from Too Faced, and just gonna spray very generously. Oh God, probably shouldn't open my mouth. And I'm gonna use the NARS. NARS has these really cool multi-use glosses. This is in the shade Relentless, and you can use them on the eyes, you can use them on the face. So what I like to do is put some on the back of my hand. I'm using a different, this is the same type of brush, but I'm using a different one. I have a little mark with a little blue tape right here so I don't get confused. But I just like to dip the brush into the product and blend it on my face like this. So since like my face is still kind of wet, it's not going to look like crazy even though I have powder on. You know, I could be more precise and use a smaller brush for this, but I just like this brush. I like the way it applies product. I like the way it kind of blends everything together. And if you're thinking to yourself, it looks like you just dab Vaseline on my face, on your face. It won't once I add the powder highlight. So this is basically just like a base. It's just almost like applying concealer and setting it with powder. Same thing, I'm applying kind of my liquid highlight. I'm gonna set it with some powder. So I'm using the Fenty Beauty 24 Cray Fairy Balm. I'm gonna use the same brush though. This highlighter is extremely pigmented. You don't need a lot. It almost gives you that wet look even without this step, but this just kind of intensifies everything. So hopefully you guys can see how out of this world my highlight is looking. And it kind of, I like this formula because it really works well with any kind of liquid or cream or whatever I lay down as a base. It kind of melts, just melts together. And if you ever feel like you apply too much, like I think I put too much of the gloss down here, just use the Beauty Blender to kind of fix it. Fix it, Jesus, fix it. Apply a little bit more powder here. So leave that there. So I'm just gonna apply a little bit more highlight. If you guys didn't know, I'm a klutz. Oh wow, damn, it's broke. Ugh. That's annoying. Wow, well, okay, moving on. Alright, so basically I'm almost done with my highlight. I think I have a good amount on. Next I'm going to go in with blush. Today's blush is from Marena Beaute. I'm not sure how to say it. Marena Beaute, I'm not sure how to say it right. Hopefully that's the right pronunciation. It's this nice kind of peachy shade. It's called Marron Peach. Just going to apply that in the center of the bronzer and the highlight. Even going a little bit on top of the bronzer. It's a really nice peachy blush for deeper complexions. So now for the last step to marry everything together. I'm going to go ahead and spray this again a little bit less vigorously. I'm opening my mouth too early. Then I'm going to use my MAC Mineralize Skin Finish in the shade Dark Deepest to kind of just set everything. Oh my gosh, I'm such a klutz. So we're going to just go like this and just press that powder over the face. So my base is basically done. I'm gonna go ahead and fix this eye area and put on some lipstick, and I'll be right back. So this is my finished look, my finished face. This is going to last me all day, 8 hours, whether you guys are at work, or you got an event to go to, or a conference, or whatever. This is a method that will last you all day. The key kind of component being the powders. Really, powder is what kind of maintains oil and all that. But when your skin is actually feeling parched, it actually will create more oil. So you have to find that balance between making sure your skin is nice and moisturized, but applying enough powder to combat that oil that is bound to come through during the day. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's little base routine, base tutorial. Don't forget, if you're looking for a new foundation, head over to thebasics.com and you can get your shade matched or just explore different foundation shades. Download the Cocoa Swatches app if you're looking for reviews on the latest and the greatest products for deeper complexions or underrepresented complexions. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Cocoa Swatches on Instagram. And yeah, I can't think of any more shameless plugs, so if you haven't already, please subscribe. More content will be on the way for you. If you liked what you saw here today, don't forget to hit the little like button. So again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.